Well, sorry, Keir, but you're going to absolutely hate this. Let's begin. Now, obviously, it's never nice to have a flop. Well, that's what my girlfriend says anyway, but Keir Starmer's been out there recently, hasn't he, saying that we should have a general election, and seems to be quietly confident that he is going to be, unfortunately, in my opinion, our next leader. And at the moment, that does seem to be the case. However, he has had a day where he's unveiled 6 pledges of what he will do if he becomes Prime Minister. And presumably, from his point of view, that was meant to make all of us think that, yes, I am the right man to take care of you all and lead the country. However, unfortunately for him, it's kind of made us think that he's actually the first syllable of that word. Especially as Nigel Farage has come out to kind of rip it all apart, really. So what has he said about it? And what are Keir's 6 pledges that will presumably make the next Labour government a lot better than the current one that we've currently got? It just makes me wonder how long into the election campaign it will be our last chance to save the NHS. I mean, we've heard that constantly with nearly every election that takes place, it seems. But speaking to GB News, Nigel, let's just say, given a bit of dose of common sense to Keir Starmer's approach, and unfortunately for Keir, kind of told it the way it is. So Mr Farage said that he told us he would stick to tough spending rules in order to give us economic stability, which, to be honest, I can't remember the last time Labour actually stuck to any of their spending pledges, especially, of course, with that little note that someone left when, let's just say, they were last in power, eh? But anyway, he continues. He'd set up Great British Energy, a publicly owned clean power energy company. He'd cut waiting lists on the NHS by providing 40,000 more appointments each week, funded, apparently, by tackling tax avoidance and non-dom loopholes. Which, to be honest, makes me think, if that last little bit was aimed more at Rishi Sunak than anyone, presumably to make us voters remember that Rishi did have a kind of bit of a problem with that a lot so long ago, and presumably tell us what a bellend he is, and things like that, I'm guessing. But anyway, Nigel continues, and this bit makes me laugh, really, because he says that Keir said he'd launch a border security command to stop the gangs arranging small boat crossings, and while that does sound good, if I remember rightly, not so long ago, there was a news article out there saying that the first thing Keir Starmer would do, if he came in, is to scrap the Rwanda plan. So that, if anything, surely kind of says that he's presumably happy with the amount of illegal boat people coming in from the safe country of France, because the Rwanda plan is obviously meant to be set up as a deterrent, and obviously Keir wants to remove it, doesn't he? Anyway, Nigel also says his last pledge, he'd provide another 6,500 neighbourhood police officers to reduce antisocial behaviour, and there'd be new penalties for offenders. And I'll tell you what's interesting, he says, about those 6 pledges is there's absolutely nothing new there at all. And this idea that you can somehow remove tax breaks as they're seen for private schools, and that gives you the money to recruit an extra 6,500 teachers, is all nonsense. Yet everybody in politics and the media keeps asking the same question: how will you pay for it? Which actually is my question to you, Keir. How will you pay for it? No doubt, of course, you've got someone like Diane Abbott presumably working out the numbers on this, because let's face it, it doesn't seem to add up, does it? What Keir Starmer's probably hoping we don't find out is what Nigel Farage has just to say uncovered a bit, because he's accused him of copying Tony Blair. I mean, presumably it's not the first time that he's been accused of this, but the reason why this time is very interesting, because he says that it was Blair back in 1997 that came up with his 5-point pledge card. And now Keir's got 6 first steps, which obviously presumably pledges, in a pledge card of his own. No doubt, of course, Keir and all the Labour voters out there presumably want another 1997 wipeout, and therefore are trying to do their very best to make sure every single thing is in line to make that happen, presumably by copying every single thing. There is just one problem with that, and that is Keir Starmer himself, because, let's face it, he's, well, in my opinion anyway, a bit of a penis. And, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that Tony Blair wasn't. He is a penis in my opinion as well. However, he actually got voted in, didn't he, before he made those terrible decisions that led to, let's just say, a very questionable war. But that's not it. Listen to this. Compare and contrast the pictures of Blair and Starmer. There's Starmer today walking around the stage, very much like Blair would have done. Did you notice the shirt? Presumably they are quite similar. And there's Tony Blair with his pledge card. That's very similar too. And have a look at the sleeves rolled up. That's Keir Starmer today. Let's go back to 1997, he says, with Tony Blair, and it's absolutely identical. Although, to be fair, when there are politicians on their campaign trails, they do tend to roll up their sleeves a bit to make it look like they're going to do some hard work. It's just a pity that more often than not, that is unfortunately not the case, eh? And the last thing, or final nail that I guess Nigel Farage is hammering into the Labour coffin, is he says, now look, there is an argument that if you find a winning formula, you keep using it. But I just put this to you. This is Blair without the flair. It's almost a charisma-free zone. Which he's kind of right, isn't he? I mean, I don't know about you, but Keir Starmer just doesn't look a very fun guy at all, does he? There just doesn't seem to be any personality there, does there? I mean, I bet the funnest thing that guy does on a Saturday night or whenever is probably just count peas or something like that. And that surely is one of Labour's massive problems here. I mean, because let's face it, in my opinion, sometimes he looks just like a cardboard couch sitting there. But yet, obviously, they do seem to be, at the moment, to be looking at kicking Tories' bums. And that is even with the handicap of Keir Starmer, because let's face it, we've got a handicap of our own, and his name is Rishi Sunak, because a lot of people, including me, do not like the way he got into power. Because let's face it, not only, in my opinion, did he kind of stab Boris in the back with what he did and was very influential in his downfall, but also, remember this guy got in without anyone voting him in at all. Well, unless you count 100 MPs, that is, but not any party members and certainly no one from the public. I personally think reform will send a massive message to the Conservatives, to actually be Conservative, because at the moment, Conservatives and Labour are looking very, very similar indeed, aren't they? Though unfortunately, it kind of looks like the one who is more favourable to the EU is going to be winning this race, if something isn't done soon to stop that from happening.